The council room was huge and filled with strange creatures from all over the galaxy. Ambassador Jiho stood in the center, wearing his dark Earth uniform. Behind him, a blue hologram showed a single spaceship slowly rotating in the air. The ship was called the Indomitable. A tall alien with a hard shell and multiple legs laughed. His name was something the humans could not pronounce easily, so they called him the Hierarch. He was from a species called the Vrexians. His laugh sounded like clicking sounds mixed together. One ship? The humans send only one ship to answer our demands? The Hierarch looked around at the other aliens in the room. They all seemed to find this funny too. Ho kept his face calm, but his jaw was tight. For 3 months, the Council had been telling Earth to give up 17 colony worlds. These were planets that humans had worked on for 200 years. The aliens said they needed to share resources better. But Jiho knew the truth. They thought humans were weak because they were new to space. The Indomitable will reach the border in 72 hours, Jiho said in a quiet but firm voice. I think you should move your invasion fleet away before then. The room exploded with laughter and strange sounds. A floating jellyfish creature lit up with bright colors. This was how his species showed they were amused. His name was Corvish. Your species has maybe 300 warships total, Corvish said through his translator device. We have 4,000 ships ready for this invasion. Perhaps humans do math differently than the rest of us? Jiho picked up his papers slowly. He was about to leave, but stopped and turned around. Math is the same everywhere, Counselor. But you are wrong about what numbers matter. He looked at each alien in the room. I used to serve on the Indomitable before I became a diplomat. We had a saying on that ship. A human saying. He paused. You are about to learn what it means. As Jiho walked out of the council room, the Hierarch waved one of his claws like he was brushing away dust. Send the fleet as we planned. If their one ship gets in the way, destroy it. Let the humans learn where they belong in this galaxy. Far away from the council station, past the safe zones and empty space between territories, the Indomitable dropped out of faster than light speed. On the bridge of the ship, Captain Yuna sat in her command chair. Her hands rested on the armrests. Those hands had scars on them from an old war. She got those scars fighting aliens called the Krill when humans first went to space with old weapons and missiles. What do the sensors show? Yuna asked. A young officer named Minho looked at his glowing screen. His fingers moved quickly across the controls. I count 4,037 enemy ships. They range from small corvettes to huge dreadnoughts. They are arranged in a standard council formation with the big ships in front and support ships protecting the rear. What about communications? Another officer, a woman named Hana, looked up. They are sending us a message, Captain. Audio only. Should I play it? Yes, play it. A rough voice filled the bridge. The computer translated it from the alien language. Unknown human vessel, you must power down your weapons and leave immediately. This region now belongs to the Council. If you do not obey, we will destroy you. Yuna leaned forward a little. Her eyes were fixed on the tactical display, where 4,000 red dots surrounded their single green dot. This is Captain Yuna of the Terran Confederate starship Indomitable. Under the Treaty of Arcturus, this region is human territory. You are breaking interstellar law. Move your fleet away in the next 60 minutes, or face what happens next. The laughter that came through the speakers sounded real and loud. You threaten us? One ship against our whole armada? Your species is either stupid or crazy. 59 minutes, Yuna said, and cut off the communication. Her second in command, a man named Daywan, came to stand next to her chair. He had served with Yuna for 12 years. He knew that tone in her voice well. What are your orders, Captain? Get the ship ready for full combat. Start up the Reaper drive. Unlock all weapon systems. She smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. Let us show them why humanity does not build regular warships anymore. Yes, ma'am? Dai-1 turned to the weapons station. Lieutenant Somin, begin getting ready for combat. Somin was the youngest officer on the bridge. She had been the best student at the Naval Academy on Mars. She had studied everything about the Indomitable in school, but this would be her first real battle. Her hands shook a little as she touched the weapons controls. Captain, all systems show green. The main batteries are drawing more power than the practice simulations showed. That is normal, Una told her in a calm voice, as simulations use public information. What we are about to do is not in any public files. On the main screen, the enemy fleet began to move. Their formation was perfect, exactly what any military school in the galaxy would teach. The huge dreadnoughts moved forward in a wall. Cruisers provided covering fire from different angles. Destroyers moved to block any torpedo attacks. Carriers launched small fighter ships that filled space like a swarm of angry insects. It was beautiful to watch. It was perfectly organized. Against a normal fleet, it would have been unstoppable, but the Indomitable was not a normal warship. 45 minutes until the deadline, Minho said. Una stood up and smoothed her uniform. Open a communication channel. Broadcast it wide. I want every ship in that fleet to hear this. Channel is open, Captain. This is Captain Una. I will explain something your council does not understand about how humans fight wars. We do not win with more ships. We do not win with bigger vessels or stronger shields. She paused to let her words sink in. We win because when we build something, we build it to end threats completely. You have 43 minutes to leave. After that, I will treat your presence as an act of war against Earth and our colonies. And I will respond the way my orders tell me to. The response came fast. Dozens of enemy ships powered up their weapons. Energy readings spiked across the sensor board as the fleet got ready to fire. They are targeting us, Somin reported. Her voice was steady, even though she looked scared. All forward weapons. They are going to try to destroy us with one massive attack. Let them lock their weapons on us, Una said. Day-1, what is the status of the Reaper drive? Fully powered up. We are drawing enough energy to light up an entire solar system. Good. Una sat back down in her chair. All crew, this is the captain. Strap into your seats and seal your suits. We are about to show the galaxy why Earth's enemies learn to fear a single name. She looked at the screen, showing the massive fleet in front of them. Today, they will learn what the Indomitable really is. On the sensor display, 4,000 ships prepared to fire. One ship waited. The countdown timer showed 42 minutes remaining. And in the cold mathematics of Space War, a new equation was about to be solved. The commander of the alien fleet was named Thexval. He sat on his command throne watching the human vessel hold its position. He was a Vrexian warrior with 20 years of military service. In all those years, he had learned to recognize when someone was bluffing out of fear. He thought this human captain was just stalling, hoping for help that would never come. All ships report ready to fire, his tactical officer said. Wait, Thexval ordered. He was curious now. The human vessel had not raised shields. It had not charged weapons. It had not done any of the things a warship normally does before combat. It just sat there in space like a rock. Scan that ship again. Use every sensor we have. The sensor officer's body spines rippled, which showed he was confused. Sir, the readings are very strange. The vessel is producing more energy than our entire front line combined, but none of that energy is going to weapons or shields. Then where is it going? I do not know, sir. The energy pattern does not match anything in our database. Vexful leaned forward on his throne. In his years of fighting wars, he had learned that unknown things were dangerous. Move the fleet back. All ships, keep your weapons aimed at them, but pull back to maximum firing range. On the Indomitable, Captain Una watched the enemy fleet change formation. They are getting careful. Smart of them. 38 minutes left, Mino reported. Lieutenant Soman looked up from her console. Captain, may I ask a question? Go ahead. I have read every report about this ship's abilities. I know we have experimental weapon systems. But 4,000 ships? She pointed at the tactical display. How is this even possible? Una stood up and walked to the main screen. Tell me, Lieutenant, what do you know about human military history? From before we went to space? Ma'am? Just answer the question. Soman thought for a moment. We had many wars. Different groups fighting each other. We almost destroyed ourselves several times. And what ended that? Una asked. What made humanity realize we needed to unite? The Krill invasion. First contact with aliens. Before that, Una traced a finger across the screen. There was a moment in Earth's history when war became too terrible to think about between major powers. Do you know what caused that moment? Commander Dewan spoke up. The nuclear age, when weapons became so powerful that victory was impossible. Only mutual destruction remained. Exactly. Una turned back to face her bridge crew. The galaxy has not had that moment yet. They still fight wars like humans did centuries ago. Fleets against fleets. Numbers against numbers. They have not learned the lesson we learned. She looked at the countdown timer. They are about to get a very expensive education. Captain, Hannah called out. Incoming transmission from the enemy fleet commander. He wants to speak directly to you. Put him on screen. The screen changed to show the inside of an alien command bridge. Vexful's insect-like face filled the frame. Human Captain, I am offering you one final chance. Withdraw now, and I will report to the Council that your ship had technical problems. You can leave with your honor. That is generous, Una said. But I have a different offer. Your fleet withdraws immediately, and I report that the Council came to its senses before I had to show them why. Sending 4,000 ships against the Indomitable was the worst tactical decision in galactic military history. Vex. Val's mouthparts clicked rapidly, showing he was irritated. You are either insane or want to die. I have studied human military tactics. You favor cleverness over firepower. But there is no trick that can overcome such superior numbers. You are absolutely right, Una agreed. Which is why we changed our approach. She nodded to Dewan. Her executive officer pressed a button, and a diagram of the Indomitable appeared on the screen between them. This is a Type 7 strategic deterrence platform, Una explained. Publicly, we call it a heavy cruiser. In reality, it is something very different. Dexful studied the diagram. It looks like a standard warship design. Look closer, specifically at where the power goes. The alien's eyes widened as he examined the data. That is impossible. 70% of your ship's mass is for a single drive system? 82%, actually, Una corrected. We do not carry troops. We do not have diplomatic quarters. We do not have science labs or cargo holds. Everything that is not crew quarters, life support, or basic navigation is dedicated to one purpose. She paused. Do you know what happens when you take everything humanity learned about energy weapons, particle physics, and quantum mechanics and focus it all on answering a single question? What question? How do you kill 1,000 ships with one shot? The color drained from Nexvel's face, or what passed for it in his species. That is a violation of every rule of warfare. We never signed your rules, Una reminded him. We were too busy being told we were not advanced enough to have a seat at the council table. She gestured at the tactical display. 25 minutes, War Master. That is how long you have to save your fleet. You are bluffing. No weapon could. 15 years ago, Una interrupted, I was a junior officer serving on the CSS Valiant. We ran into a krill harvesting fleet near Barnard Star. 87 ships. They destroyed the Valiant in 4 minutes. I watched 900 of my crewmates die. Her voice became hard as steel. I spent 3 days in an escape pod before rescue arrived. 3 days floating in the debris field of my ship, watching the krill harvest the planet below. Do you know what I did during those 3 days? Dexval said nothing. I calculated. I ran the numbers over and over. I figured out exactly how much energy it would take to kill every single one of those ships. And when I was rescued, I submitted a proposal to our naval command. She smiled coldly. They approved it. 5 years and the entire economic output of Mars later, the Indomitable and her 2 sister ships were built. We made 3 of them, War Master. 3 ships designed to answer one simple question. What if we stopped trying to fight fair? This is madness, Bexville said quietly. This is deterrence, Una countered. The Council wanted to test humanity's resolve. You wanted to see if we would fight for our colonies. Congratulations. You are about to get your answer. She cut the transmission. On the bridge, the crew sat in tense silence. Finally, Ensign Hannah spoke. Captain, do you really think they will withdraw? Una returned to her command chair. Honestly? No. In their position, I would probably call the bluff too. We are one ship. They are a fleet. Every instinct they have says they can win. She brought up the tactical display. But instincts can be wrong. 19 minutes, Minot announced. Commander Daewon moved to stand beside Una's chair. Captain, we should start running the firing calculations. The Reaper drive needs precise targeting data for maximum effectiveness. Agreed. Somin, begin target acquisition. I want firing solutions for every ship in that fleet. Yes, ma'am. Somin's fingers flew across her console. Captain, the computer is asking for priority targeting. Should we focus on the big ships first? No, Una said. Target them all equally. I want simultaneous strikes across the entire fleet. No survivors. The word hung in the air like a death sentence. Ma'am, Somin said quietly, that fleet has over 200,000 crew members. I know. Una's voice was heavy with the weight of what she was about to do. And every single one of them had the chance to turn around. They chose to be here. They chose to invade human space. She looked at her weapons officer. War is not clean, Lieutenant. It is not heroic. It is mathematics and death. Right now, the math says that if we do not stop this fleet here, they will reach our colonies. 17 worlds. 40 million people. She leaned forward. So I am going to kill 200,000 to save 40 million. And I am going to have to live with that for the rest of my life. The bridge fell silent. 15 minutes, Minot said. Target acquisition complete, Somin reported. All 4,037 vessels locked. The Reaper drive is ready to fire. Hold position, Una ordered. We give them every chance to retreat. On the sensor display, the enemy fleet stayed in formation. Not a single ship turned away. The countdown continued in the heart of the Indomitable. In a massive chamber that took up 3 entire decks. A weapon that humanity had promised to only use in the darkest circumstances began its final charging sequence. The galaxy was about to learn a new definition of fear. War Master. Vexval walked back and forth on his command bridge. His claws clicked against the metal floor. Every tactical instinct he had told him to attack, to overwhelm the single human vessel with firepower that could destroy a planet. But doubt crept through his mind like ice water. "Analysis complete, sir," his science officer reported. "The human vessel's power ratings are unlike anything in our databases." "If their claims are true," Dexval interrupted. "One word that changes everything. They could be running an elaborate bluff. Humans are known for psychological warfare." His second officer, an older Vrexian named Kethral, made a thoughtful clicking sound. "War Master, I was at the Battle of Cygnus Rift. The humans were outnumbered 20 to 1. They used a weapon that disabled our entire front line in seconds. Something they called an EMP burst. We had never seen such a tactic. They innovate in ways we do not expect. You think we should retreat? I think we should be careful. We can withdraw, report to the Council, and return with proper countermeasures if needed. There is no shame in. There is shame in cowardice." Dexval slammed his claw on the command console. "The Council is watching. 47 species are watching. If we run from a single ship, humanity will be emboldened. They will demand more territory, more concessions. This is about more than just these colonies." Kethral bowed his head. "As you command, War Master. How much time?" 8 minutes until their deadline." Dexval straightened to his full height. "All ships, prepare to attack. On my mark, we fire everything at once. If the humans have some sort of super weapon, we will destroy them before they can use it. Charge all weapons." Across 4,000 ships, energy readings spiked as massive weapon systems drew power. Missiles armed. Torpedo tubes loaded. Fighter wings launched from carrier bays, filling space with a swarm of deadly craft. On the Indomitable, alarms blared throughout the ship. "Enemy fleet powering weapons," Mino reported. "I am reading massive energy buildups across all capital ships. They are preparing to fire." Captain Yuna checked the countdown. 7 minutes. "They are not going to wait. Should we raise shields?" Day One asked. "No point. If they all fire at once, no shield in existence could stop it." She opened a channel to the entire ship. "All hands, this is the captain. Brace for incoming fire. Damage control teams, stand ready. Engineering, I need everything you have for the Reaper drive." From engineering, Chief Warrant Officer Hyon's voice came through the speakers. "Captain, the drive is at 100%. We are ready to fire on your command. But ma'am, once we start, there is no stopping it. The energy discharge will be visible for light years. Every species in the galaxy will know what we have done." "I know, Chief. That is the point." Yuna closed the channel and looked at her crew. These people trusted her. They followed her orders without question, even knowing what those orders might mean. "I want you all to know something. What we are about to do will change everything. The galaxy will either fear humanity or hate us. Maybe both. Our names will be remembered, but not fondly." She stood, gripping the back of her command chair. "If anyone wants to object, speak now. I will note your disagreement in the log." The bridge crew looked at each other. Then, as one, they turned back to their stations. "No objections, Captain," Daywan said quietly. "Then let us finish this." Yuna sat down. "Soman, arm the Reaper drive. Authorization code Yuna Delta 77. Armed, Captain." Sumon's voice was steady now, all hesitation gone. "Targeting computer confirms 4037 locked solutions. Enemy fleet opening fire." Minho shouted. The main screen lit up like a supernova as thousands of weapons fired at once. Energy beams, plasma bolts, missiles, and metal projectiles streaked across the void, all aimed at the Indomitable. "Impact in 30 seconds, Minho counted down. 29, 20-8 ... Helm, evasive maneuvers, Una ordered. Buy us as much time as possible. The ship lurched as thrusters fired, sending the Indomitable into a series of violent turns. But there was too much incoming fire. No amount of piloting could dodge everything. First impacts in 5 seconds. The ship shuddered as missiles exploded against the hull. Energy beams burned through armor plating. The Indomitable was tough, built with triple-layered armor and experimental materials. But nothing could withstand this assault for long. Hull breaches on decks 7 and 12, Dewan reported. Damage control teams responding. Shields down to 40%. Armor failing in multiple sections. Another series of impacts. The lights flickered. Warning sirens screamed throughout the ship. Shields at 15%. Hull integrity at 70% and falling. Una watched the countdown timer. 4 minutes. They just needed to survive for 4 more minutes. Fire the Reaper drive. The order echoed across the bridge like a gunshot. Summon's hand hovered over the firing control for just a moment. Then she pressed it deep in the heart of the Indomitable. In a chamber lined with exotic matter and quantum field generators, something impossible happened. The ship's entire power output, enough energy to run a small city for a year, discharged in a single instant. The Reaper drive did not fire a beam. It did not launch a missile. Instead, it did something far more terrible. Created an expanding sphere of quantum-entangled particles that, for just a fraction of a second, treated every targeted object as if they occupied the same point in space. The effect was instantaneous. 4,037 ships, spread across millions of cubic kilometers of space, simultaneously experienced what it was like to be at the center of a thermonuclear explosion. But it was not heat or pressure that destroyed them. It was the fundamental laws of physics being briefly rewritten. Shields meant nothing. Armor meant nothing. Distance meant nothing. Every ship, from the smallest corvette to the massive dreadnoughts, simply came apart. Not in explosions. That would have been merciful. Instead, the quantum field tore apart molecular bonds, broke down atomic structures, and reduced complex warships to their basic atoms in the span of a single heartbeat. One moment, an armada. The next, an expanding cloud of gas and debris. On the Indomitable, the crew watched in stunned silence as 4,000 red icons vanished from the tactical display, replaced by a diffuse haze of scattered matter. "My God," Hannah whispered. The main screen showed the aftermath. Where a fleet had been, now there was only an enormous cloud, the atomized remains of ships and crew, spreading outward like a ghostly flower blooming in the void. Captain Una stood slowly, her face pale. She had known what the Reaper drive could do. She had read the reports, watched the test firings against empty drone ships. But seeing it used against real vessels, against 200,000 living beings, was something else entirely. "Casualty report," she said, her voice rough. "Sensors detect no survivors," Mignot reported quietly. The quantum field was thorough. Una closed her eyes. Noted, logged the following. At 1847 Galactic Standard Time, TCSS Indomitable engaged hostile fleet in defense of Terran colonial space. Enemy fleet refused multiple demands to withdraw and opened fire. This vessel responded with authorized force. Enemy fleet neutralized. She opened her eyes. Damage report for our ship? Hull integrity at 62%, Daewon said. Shields regenerating. We have casualties 17 wounded, 3 critical, none fatal. We can make repairs and return to base. Communications. Open a channel to Galactic Council Station. Maximum priority. I want every council member to receive this. Channel open, Captain. Una straightened her uniform, composed herself, and looked directly at the camera. This is Captain Yuna of the TCSS Indomitable to the Galactic Council. 20 minutes ago, your fleet opened fire on this vessel in an unprovoked attack within sovereign Terran space. That fleet has been neutralized. I am transmitting full tactical data of this engagement to all Council members. She paused. Consider this a demonstration of humanity's commitment to defending our territory. Any further invasions into Terran space will be met with identical response. We gave you every chance to withdraw. You chose war. This is what war with humanity looks like. She cut the transmission. The bridge remained silent. Outside the windows, the cloud of destroyed ships continued to expand, a ghostly monument to what happened when you underestimated humanity. Orders, Captain? Daewon asked finally. Set course for Earth, standard speed. I want our damage visible when we dock. Yuna sat back down, suddenly feeling every year of her age. And someone send a message to Ambassador Jiho. Tell him the diplomacy is about to get a lot easier. As the Indomitable turned toward home, its hull scarred and smoking but intact, it left behind 4,000 graves. And across the galaxy, on every Council world, military strategists began recalculating what it meant to go to war with humanity. The equation had changed. One ship had been enough after all. Ambassador. Jiho stood in his office, looking out over the Galactic Council Plaza. Dozens of screens showed news from 47 different worlds. Every channel displayed the same thing, the recording from the Indomitable, the cloud where a fleet used to be, and experts trying to explain how one ship destroyed 4,000. His communication device beeped. Ambassador, the Council has called an emergency session. Your presence is requested immediately. Tell them I will be there in 10 minutes. Jiho adjusted his diplomatic uniform. The formal wear felt heavier than usual. Everything had changed in the span of a single weapon firing. The council chamber was packed when he arrived. Representatives from every member species filled the curved rows of seats. Jiho could feel the fear radiating from them. The Vrexian delegation was noticeably smaller, only 3 representatives instead of their usual 15. The Quillians had put up personal force fields around their atmospheric tanks. Even the usually fearless Krell Collective had positioned extra guards at their section. The Council Arbiter, a crystalline being named Shadar, who had led galactic affairs for 200 years, gestured for silence. His voice came through translation fields. Ambassador Jiho, this council demands an explanation. Your government has committed an act of unprecedented aggression. Jiho walked slowly to the central platform. His boots echoed in the vast chamber. With respect, Arbiter, the aggression was not ours. 4,000 warships entered sovereign Terran space, despite diplomatic protests. They opened fire on a single vessel. That vessel defended itself. Defended? A Vrexian representative stood up. His shell still had burn marks. He had been on a ship outside the Reaper Field's range. You murdered 200,000 beings in an instant. You used a weapon that violates every principle of fair response. Fair, Jiho repeated, letting the word hang in the air. Your fleet planned to invade 17 colony worlds. 40 million human civilians. You brought 4,000 ships to do this. How many of our people did you plan to kill? He looked around the chamber. Do not pretend this was going to be a peaceful occupation. Shadar's crystalline form pulsed with agitation. The issue is not the defense itself, but the weapon used. This Reaper drive represents an existential threat to galactic civilization. Good, Jiho said flatly. The word shocked the chamber into silence. You finally understand. For decades, humanity has watched as the Council ignored our concerns, dismissed our sovereignty, and treated us like children who needed guidance. We asked for a seat at this table. We were refused. We requested mutual defense treaties. Denied. We sought fair trade agreements. blocked at every turn. He gestured at the holographic display showing the engagement. So we built a deterrent. 3 ships, each capable of ending any fleet that threatens our people. And now you know they exist. You are holding a gun to the head of galactic civilization, the Quillian representative said, his lights pulsing rapidly. No, Geo corrected. We are holding a gun to the head of anyone who threatens humanity. There is a difference. He pulled up a document on the display. I am submitting 3 proposals to this council. First, immediate recognition of all Terran colonial claims. Second, a seat on the council with full voting rights. Third, a mutual non-aggression pact that applies to all council members. And if we refuse? Shatter asked. Then we continue as we have been. Humanity will defend its interests with whatever force necessary. The Indomitable and her sister ships will patrol our borders. And every time someone tests those borders, the galaxy will watch what happens. Jiho's face hardened. Or you can accept that humanity is not asking for permission anymore. We are informing you of reality. The chamber erupted in argument. Some species demanded humanity be punished, isolated, quarantined. Others, quieter voices, suggested that perhaps humanity had earned its demands. Still others calculated what it would mean to have Earth as an enemy versus an ally. In the end, it took 6 hours of debate. But when the vote came, the results were clear. 15 species voted to reject humanity's proposals. 32 voted to accept. The Terran Colonial Union was now a full member of the Galactic Council. Later that evening, Jiho stood on an observation deck looking out at the stars. Captain Yuna had sent him a private message. The diplomacy is your problem now. I'm going to find a very strong drink and try to forget today ever happened. He could not blame her. The tactical reports had been clinical, but Jiho had read between the lines. Yuna had killed 200,000 beings. That she had done so in defense of her species, with proper authorization. Following her orders, none of that would help her sleep at night. A costly victory, a voice said behind him. Jiho turned to find Kethral, the Vrexian second officer who had survived the battle. The alien's shell showed signs of quick repairs. You were outside the weapon's range. My ship was positioned at the fleet's extreme edge. An accident of formation that saved my life. Kethral moved to stand beside Jiho. I watched the entire fleet die. One moment they were there. The next ... double quotes, he trailed off. I am sorry for your losses, Jiho said quietly. Are you? Kethral turned to face him. I have studied your history, Ambassador. Humans have caused each other terrible suffering. You know what it means to lose friends in war. But I wonder, do you truly understand what you have unleashed? The Reaper drive changes everything. It makes fleets meaningless. It makes conventional warfare suicide. You have guaranteed that future conflicts with humanity will either be avoided entirely or escalate to total extinction. There is no middle ground anymore. That was the point, Jiho admitted. For centuries, humanity fought wars where the middle ground kept shifting, where victory meant more sacrifice, more death, more suffering. We learned that the only way to prevent war is to make it unthinkable. And if someone builds a weapon to counter yours, then we build something worse. Jiho looked out at the stars. This is the cost of our survival, Kethral. We will never again be at someone else's mercy. We will never again watch our colonies burn while we beg the galaxy for help that never comes. If that makes us monsters, then we are monsters. But we are alive. Kethral was silent for a long moment. War Master Thexfell was my clutch brother. We hatched from eggs next to each other, trained together, fought together. He made a mistake today, a fatal one. But he was not evil. None of them were. They were soldiers following orders, believing they fought for the right reasons. I know, Jiho said. That does not make them less dead. No, Kethrel agreed. It does not. He turned to leave, then paused. Ambassador, I will be returning home to help notify the families of the fallen. I will tell them that humanity showed restraint, that you warned us, gave us chances to retreat, that you fired only when fired upon. I will tell them the truth, because they deserve that much. But I will also tell them something else. What is that? That in a galaxy full of predators, humanity has become the apex predator. And the smartest thing any species can do now is make sure you never see them as prey. After Kethrel left, Jiho remained on the observation deck for hours. He thought about Captain Yuna, carrying the weight of 200,000 deaths. He thought about the 40 million colonists who would live because of her actions. He thought about the delicate balance humanity now walked powerful enough to defend itself, but still vastly outnumbered by the combined forces of the galaxy. Ship had changed everything, but 3 ships would not be enough if the galaxy united against them. Humanity would need to be very careful about how it used its newfound respect. Fear could maintain peace, but it could also breed resentment, hatred, and eventually, desperate attempts at revenge. The game had changed, but it was far from overdone. As Jiho finally headed back to his quarters, he pulled up a classified report. Deep in the outer regions of the Sol system, construction had begun on something new. Not another Reaper-class ship. Something bigger. Humanity was learning from its own lessons. Deterrence only worked if your enemies believed you would keep improving, keep innovating, keep staying ahead. The galaxy had feared one ship. Jiho wondered what they would think of what came next. 6 months after the battle, Captain Yuna sat in a support group on Mars. The red planet's dusty horizon was visible through the habitat's windows. She found herself staring at it instead of looking at the other people in the circle. Captain? The counselor, an older man named Timon who had served in the Krill Wars, gently prompted her. You were telling us about the nightmares. Yuna finally looked at the group. 7 other veterans, all carrying their own burdens. I see them every night. Not the ships exploding. It would almost be easier. I see the cloud of atoms that used to be people. And I wonder about them. Did they have families? Did they write letters home? Were any of them having doubts about the invasion? She clenched her fists. I turned 200,000 individuals into dust. Not enemies. Not casualties. People. A younger veteran, Lieutenant Jisoo, who had served on the Indomitable during the battle, spoke up. Captain, you saved 40 million people. You stopped an invasion that would have... I know the math, Yuna interrupted. 40 million divided by 200,000 equals 200. Every person I killed saved 200 others. It is a good ratio, strategically speaking. She looked down at her hands. But I still killed them. And I would do it again if I had to. That is what keeps me awake, not the guilt, exactly, but the certainty that I would make the same choice. What does that make me? Timon leaned forward. Human. It makes you human, Captain. You did a terrible thing for good reasons. You carry the weight of that. And you keep living, keep trying to be better, because that is what soldiers do. The session continued, but Yuna's mind wandered. In 6 months, the galaxy had changed in ways both small and large. Humanity's 3 Reaper-class vessels, the Indomitable, Inevitable, and Invincible now patrolled Terran space in rotating shifts. No Council fleet dared approach human borders. Pirates and raiders had completely abandoned human shipping lanes. Human merchant vessels traveled freely for the first time in decades, but the cost had been isolation. Many species viewed humanity with open fear. Trade had initially dropped as alien merchants sought safer partners. Diplomatic relations were formal, cold, built on mutual distrust rather than friendship. Slowly, carefully. That was beginning to change. After the session ended, Yuna received a message from Ambassador Jiho requesting her presence at the council station. She had been dreading this. Going back to the place where she had been condemned by half the galaxy was not appealing, but orders were orders. 3 days later, she stood in a private conference room with Jiho and several unexpected guests. Kethral represented the Vrexian Confederacy. A Quillian named Velphus pulsed in his atmospheric tank. Even a Krell representative had attended, its multiple bodies forming a semicircle. Captain Yuna, Jiho began, these representatives have a proposal for you. Kethral stepped forward. Captain, 6 months ago, you destroyed a fleet that included my clutch brother. I hated you for that. I spent months dreaming of revenge. He paused. Then 3 weeks ago, the Krill horde attacked Vrexian mining colonies in the Kepler sector. 17 settlements. 2 million of my people. They came with a harvesting fleet 300 ships. Yuna felt something cold settle in her stomach. What happened? The inevitable was on patrol nearby. Captain Minseok received my government's distress call. He arrived with 1 ship against 300. Kethral's mandibles clicked in what Yuna had learned was Vrexian respect. He warned them once to withdraw. When they refused and continued attacking civilian targets, he used the Reaper Drive. The entire Krill fleet was destroyed. 2 million of my people were saved. I do not understand, Yuna said. Your colonies are not protected by human defense agreements. Exactly, Jiho said. Captain Minseok acted without authorization. He saw people in danger and decided that humanity's weapon should be used to protect life, regardless of species. Velphus pulsed in his tank. He has been court-martialed by your government for exceeding his authority. We are here to speak on his behalf, and to propose something larger. The Krell representatives' multiple voices spoke together in eerie harmony. The Reaper Drive has changed warfare, but it need not only be a weapon of terror. It could be a tool of galactic security. Yuna looked at Jiho. What are they suggesting? A peacekeeping force, Jiho explained. Ships crewed by multiple species, but including human vessels with Reaper capability, operating under strict rules established by all council members. Not to conquer or dominate, but to protect civilian populations from threats like the Krill, like pirates, like anyone who preys on the innocent. You want humanity to be the galaxy's enforcer, Yuna said flatly. We want humanity to be part of the galaxy's defense, Kethral corrected. Your weapon is terrible. We all know this, but it exists. The question is whether it will be used purely for human interests, or whether it can serve a larger purpose. Yuna walked to the window, looking out at the council station's busy traffic lanes. Ships from 100 worlds coming and going. Trade and diplomacy continuing as it had for thousands of years. You realize what you are asking? Every time we use the Reaper Drive, people die. Thousands of them. You want us to carry that burden, not just for ourselves, but for all of you? Yes, Velphus pulsed. And in exchange, humanity would finally have what it sought true partnership with the galactic community. Not as conquerors, not as monsters, but as protectors who understand the cost of violence and use it only when necessary. And if we refuse, then nothing changes, the Krell said. Humanity remains isolated. The Reaper ships patrol your borders only, and the galaxy continues to fear you rather than work with you. This is an opportunity for something different. Yuna turned to Jiho. What does Earth say? The decision is still being made, but your opinion carries weight, Captain. You are the one who fired the first shot. Your testimony about whether this is possible, whether humanity should take on this role, it matters. She thought about the nightmares, about 200,000 dead. About Captain Min Seok facing punishment for saving 2 million people. About the galaxy's careful balance of power and the weapon that had disrupted it. "I will testify," she said finally. "But I have conditions. Strict rules of engagement. Oversight from all council members. And every person who serves on these ships needs to understand what they are signing up for. This is not glory. It is not heroism. It is carrying the weight of necessary evil so that others do not have to." "Agreed," Kethril said immediately. "And one more thing," Yuna continued. "Captain Min Seok does not get punished. He gets a medal. He did what was right, even knowing the cost. That is what we need: officers who understand the weapon's terrible power and use it only to save lives. Never for conquest or revenge. That will be part of our proposal to your government," Hio promised. The meeting continued for hours, working out details, debating rules, arguing over who had authority and when. But slowly, a framework emerged. The Galactic Peacekeeping Initiative, they called it. Human Reaper-class vessels would form the core, but they would be accompanied by ships and observers from other species. No single species could order a Reaper strike. It would require agreement from a committee representing all major galactic factions. It was not perfect. It would be complicated, slow, and full of political tension. But it was a start. 3 months later, Captain Yuna stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, now designated as the flagship of the Peacekeeping Initiative. Her crew had expanded to include liaisons from 15 different species. Lieutenant Solon remained at weapons, but now she consulted with the Vrexian tactical officer and Aquilian strategic analyst before any combat. Action. Their first mission was simple: escort a humanitarian convoy through territory contested by 3 warring factions. None of the factions wanted to fight the Indomitable, but all 3 needed to claim they were allowing the convoy through as a gesture of goodwill. It was diplomatic theater, but it worked. The convoy reached refugees who desperately needed supplies. 0 shots were fired. On the bridge, Yuna watched the convoy ships depart and allowed herself a small smile. Navigation: set course for Patrol Sector 7. Standard speed. "Yes, Captain," Ensign Hannah replied. The young officer had grown in the past year, her hands steady on the controls. As the Indomitable turned toward open space, Yuna thought about the path ahead. Humanity had built a weapon capable of ending fleets. They had used it in anger, in fear, in desperate defense. Now they would use it for something else. Not conquest. Not dominance. But protection. It would not erase the 200,000 dead. Nothing could. But maybe, just maybe, it meant their deaths had purchased something beyond human survival. Maybe they had bought the galaxy a chance at something better. The stars stretched out before them, infinite and full of possibility. And for the first time since the battle, Captain Yuna slept without nightmares. Galaxy had learned to fear one human warship. Now, they were learning something more important. That the humans who controlled such terrible power understood its weight and carried it with the seriousness it deserved. In the end, that made all the difference.